teacher. In today's session we are going to be continuing the part 2 of Introduction to Vocabulary. Last time we spoke about part 1 about vocabulary, and today is about part 2. In part 2 I'm going to be speaking about different things. The first point will be about formality. So we're going to be speaking about 7 points. The first point will be about formality. Formality, as you can notice, is about some words in English that can be formal and others that are not formal, they are informal. And so formality has got to do with academicity. That means the words that are formal can be used in academicity or academic writing, while the words that are informal can be used only in communication on the street, between the family members, between friends, between acquaintances. They can be using such a type of vocabulary in speaking, and this vocabulary is informal. And so that's about formality within vocabulary. Another point about formality and informality concerning words. Some words are vulgarisms, some other words are colloquialisms. And so the words which are vulgarisms, they are used particularly in obscene language, swear words. Particularly teenagers and young adults, when they speak, they swear. They make use of such bad language or foul language. Colloquialisms are words which are only spoken, they are not written. They can be used only in speech, and we shall be talking about that in due time. So this is the first point about formality. Formal words and informal words. The second point is about roots and affixation. So as you can notice, sometimes a word has got a root and has got some suffixes and prefixes. So affixation has got to do with prefixes at the beginning, before the word, and affixes which are appended to the word. And that's about affixation and roots. Let's take an example. The word happy. So happy is an adjective. It has got 2 syllables, happy, and it is one word, it's one morpheme. And this word is the root. Now if you want to make this adjective into a noun, I would say happiness. I would add the suffix ness by the end of the word. And if I want to make this happiness the opposite, I would say unhappiness. So I have to use the prefix. I have to use the prefix un before happy to make it unhappiness, to make the opposite. And so that's about roots and affixation. We shall be talking about that in due time, in a separate lesson, deeply. Point number 3 is about meaning and derivation and perception. And so sometimes we have got to be careful, because there are some words in English which can be derived differently. And since they can be derived differently, they have to have different meanings and different uses. Let's take an example. The word act, it's the verb act. You can add to it the suffix or to make it actor. You can add the suffix ing to make it acting, a noun, as you can add the suffix ion to make it action. And so actor and acting and action and active and activism, all these 5 words which are derived from the root act are used in language differently. They are used differently to yield different meanings, to convey different messages in speaking and in writing. And so the perception that we have as non-native speakers about those words should be deep. We should be very careful as to what we should choose, either action or acting, particularly when we speak about nouns. Am I supposed in this context to choose the word acting or the word action? And that's what we call perception, how I perceive the word. Not only its meaning, but I perceive it there. To have this kind of sense in this context, or to have this kind of sense in another different context. And that's perception. The second idea about perception is the way we, as non-native speakers of English, perceive words to be either good words or bad words, to be formal words or informal words. And sometimes it happens to some people who are very competent at English. So that means you have got to have a certain level at English, or a certain level of competency, in order to understand and to perceive those words correctly. To know that this word is used in this way, and this word is used in this way. This word is formal, and this word is informal. And so that's it about perception of vocabulary. The other point, or point number 4, is about 5 things. It's about synonymy, antonymy, homonymy, monosemy, and polysemy. Let's repeat them. So the lesson is going to be about synonymy, words which have the same meaning nearly. Either they are exact synonyms or near exact synonyms. And antonymy, we shall be talking about opposites, words which are opposites, which are opposed to each other or to one another. And we shall be talking about homonymy. Within homonymy we have 2 different things, homophones and homographs. Homophones are about words which are spelt differently, but they have the same, which are spelled differently, but they have the same pronunciation. Or they don't have the same meaning, but they have the same pronunciation. That's about homophones. Homographs are about words which are spelt similarly in the same way, but they have different meanings or different pronunciations, or both. So homonymy is about 2 things, about homographs and homophones. Then we shall be talking about, within this lesson, lesson number 4, about polysemy and monosemy. Polysemy is about the word having different meanings, more than one meaning. Poly is the prefix to show the meaning many or a lot. So polysemy, it means a word that has more than one meaning and can be used differently in different contexts. Monosemy, as you can notice from the prefix mono, it means one. It means a word which has only one meaning, and in this case is used only in one particular context. Let's take examples about each. For example, the word speak. Now, no doubt I can notice, but you understand the word speak as having only one meaning: to use your mouth and to say words in the air to the receiver to understand you. Meaningful words, that's to speak. But some words which have different meanings, like the word lead, it can mean cause someone to do something, and lead, it can mean to be a leader. So if I say, for example, Peter led the army at war, and he led me to do something. So the first point is about leadership at war, and the second point is about causation, to cause me to do something, to make me do something. As you can notice, the verb lead can have these 2 different meanings, and so the verb lead is polysemous, different meanings. So that's lesson number 4. Lesson number 5 is about spelling and pronunciation. Spelling and pronunciation. And this is a problem that many students, or let's say many people, even native speakers, particularly spelling, they make mistakes in. There are certainly some words which can be very, very difficult to pronounce, and there are other words which can be very difficult to spell or to remember the spelling of. Let's take some examples. The word megalomaniacal, it's a long word and it's somewhat difficult to pronounce. Megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, and in the same time, this long word can be difficult for some of us to spell correctly or to remember the spelling of. And so spelling and pronunciation. Sometimes spelling is not related to pronunciation. That means the look of the word does not dictate how it should be spelled. Let's take an example. The word recipe. If someone doesn't know the word recipe, the meaning of the word recipe, and maybe he saw it once or twice, but he didn't recognize its meaning, he didn't hear its pronunciation, it is very, very possible for him or her to pronounce it recipe. You know why? Because we have this idea that if you have 4 letters separately or within a word, and these 4 letters go as consonant and then I, and then another consonant and then E, that pronunciation of the I in the middle should be I, should be on its nature. And so the speaker here would pronounce a recipe as recipe, and that's a mistake. So it is pronounced recipe. But you can notice that there is a kind of confusion here, because the spelling dictates that the word should be pronounced recipe. But no, people in Britain and America, and in different places where English is the first language, or maybe the second, people would pronounce that word recipe and not recipe. And so that's the problem between knowing the pronunciation directly from the spelling. It's not always possible or easy. And so that's lesson number 5. Lesson number 6 would be about word stress. We shall be talking about the stress on particular words and the stress because of different suffixes. Because no doubt we know that the suffix affects the stress, affects the placement of stress. This suffix either moves the stress from one syllable to another, or it holds the stress. Let's take some examples. For example, if you take the word magnet and you add the suffix ic, ic by the end, you have to say magnetic. So you can notice that the word magnet, the stress on the first syllable, when we added ic, the suffix ic, the stress moved to the second syllable and it became magnetic. It should be pronounced like this, magnetic. Another example about suffixes, the suffix ese. So let's take an example about that. The word Japan. Japan is the country. If I want to make nationality, I would say Japanese. And so the stress moves from the second syllable to the suffix directly. And so that suffix holds the stress. So this is lesson number 6. Lesson number 7, the last one, is about Dunandunation. Dunandunation is a phenomenon in which a speaker or a learner of English memorizes a particular word and he would use it in his speech and writing regularly, let's say, or oftentimes. But sometimes he would always use it in his speech, and that would be somewhat irritating to other people when they listen to him or read his writings. Dunandunation is about this idea that I check the dictionary and I take a word that appeals to me, that I like so much, and then I come to the people to speak English and I use it in my speech a lot. I repeat again and again, I repeat it again and again, I repeat it again and again, and even in writing the same thing. And that's the verb to dunandunate, to use a particular word, to overuse it, let's say, to overuse that particular word because you have memorized it and you've liked it. Like me, for example, it was in 2012 when I was on campus with my friends, with my roommates. I memorized the word ecstatic, and so from that time till, let's say, maybe 4 or 5 years, I used to use that word in my speech a lot. Whenever I present a speech, I would say, that's ecstatic. The word ecstatic because I liked it. I liked the pronunciation. I liked the way it's written. So let's repeat them. Lesson 1 would be about formality. Lesson 2 would be about roots and affixation. Lesson 3 would be about meaning, derivation, and perception. Lesson 4 would be about 5 points about polysemy and monosemy and synonymy and antonymy and homonymy. And lesson 5 would be about spelling and pronunciation. And lesson 6 would be about word stress. And lesson 7, the last one, would be about the phenomenon of Dunandunation. Thank you so much. I hope you could understand some stuff about what I said in this episode. I thank you and goodbye.